Welcome back to the Jazari Qual Show. Jazari here with my co-host Tommy. We have a well, maybe not fun, but interesting conversation for you guys today or tonight about all the drama surrounding the adjuster and more.
Mm, it's not a bad name, to be honest.
So,
He's smiling, people, because he's nervous. It's a very delicate topic.
I'm not nervous. I'm not.
I am.
I
I
just like.
am.
Why are you okay? Go ahead.
I don't know. It's because it's like one of those things. It's like it involves violence, but you also kind of like get it. Like I get it. You know.
Yeah, okay. So you were talking about how like violence is not good and I'm not condoning violence or anything like that. But
Yeah.
the thing too is that like I
No.
like
Here. Let me.
some of the stuff.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
you
ahead.
go.
If you got
You
your.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Go.
You go ahead. Yeah, you
Well, I'm
go.
just saying. One of my heroes is Martin Luther King, and that guy was going to go down with the ship when it came to like nonviolent like
Sure.
protest,
Mhm.
right? And it's because he knew the system that he was dealing with. He knew that he had to somehow convince like the moderates, the people who look at like rash behavior and go, oh my gosh, they're so dramatic, even though the substance of their argument is right. He still knew that he had to go about it a certain way, and he was one of the most successful civil rights movements in history.
Mhm.
And it was because, I mean, it you could probably describe it as like passive protest. A sit-in is not something that's like inherently aggressive, right? I guess it's like passive aggressive, but that is somebody who really embraced the nonviolent civil rights movement, and it's arguably the greatest and most successful civil rights movement in history, you know?
Yeah, okay. So the thing is that I understand violence is not the answer, but like I want to know why he did this because allegedly, I mean, his sister, I
Mhm,
got this from a source, a friend who sent it to me. Apparently his sister is a medical doctor.
mhm.
And so the thing is, okay, so the memes and like the TikToks and everything that people have been making, like sent like a few to you, Tommy, and it's just like some of these people, like some of the stories that they were putting in the comments were just like this surgery that I needed or whatever was not, you know, approved by insurance, and so now
Yeah.
I'm like, $80,000 in debt or something like that. Like
Mhm.
somebody said this once, and not condoning violence, but if an insurance agency or company like decides, and I don't even know if this is possible for them to like for them not to pay for a surgery that you need, like a
Mhm.
lifelike thing, is that like in a sense of them saying like, okay, well if you die, you die, like who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what for-profit insurance is. That's their whole thing, is taking as much money as you can and keep as much money as you can. And that's why they just meticulously deny these claims on very strange grounds, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I saw a story of somebody, a child who was going through chemotherapy, and the health insurance, actually, the United Healthcare denied the doctor's request to pay for nausea medication.
See
Not
that
medically necessary. Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. So like things like that. But this guy wanted to get caught.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Okay, so you found out that was a hoax, that video that was on his YouTube channel?
Yeah, it was taken down, and everybody's kind of saying it was a hoax because it wasn't him. But I wouldn't be surprised if he had some kind of dead man switch. But at this point, I don't know what else he has to offer besides his story on in court. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I mean, there's so many layers to this. Like he used a gun. Actually, that turned out to not be true. But Monopoly money. He had the bullet casings. You know,
Yeah, so the bullet casings had like what was written on them again?
deny, depose, delay, or something like that. Three
Okay,
Ds.
and huh.
So I mean, like he clearly had layers. He was pretty good at planning this stuff, but how he got caught is just like, really, that's how this ends. You want to go
That-
into that?
yeah, go ahead. I'm a,
He got caught at McDonald's. Somebody one picture he got one picture of his face during his entire time in New York City, and it was because he was flirting with a hostess for the hostel he was staying in. She said, we were flirting, and I said, "Let me see that smile." Pulls down the mask, gives him that smile. That one photo, some McDonald's employee noticed it was him. I mean, I don't have all the details, but noticed it was him and called the cops and said, "I think this guy's the guy."
What was the reward money? Was it like up to 60,000 or something crazy like that?
It started going up when people were like $10,000, really? Like for this guy who made $10 million a year, like off of human
Mm.
suffering. That's all you're gonna give the peasants. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like
Why?
McDonald's.
So
Yeah.
okay, so it says up to $60,000. What if they're just like, okay, here's $100?
I mean, they can do that. I
It
think
says
that
up
has happened in
to,
history.
up
Let's see.
to.
I can look this up.
But yeah, I can't believe this all came down to McDonald's. The person who called the cops on him. And the a lot of people have had this take of like, if this guy wasn't a CEO of a major healthcare company and this was
Yeah.
you, I mean, it took them
Yeah.
20, almost 30 years to find out who killed Tupac.
Tupac ain't
I
dead. We already talked about this.
no.
No, okay, fine. Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
What people are
Yes.
saying that he's on an island with Aaliyah and Biggie Smalls.
So yeah, and then Elvis isn't dead too. That's just one of those things. Oh, you've never heard Elvis isn't dead?
I have
Like,
not
oh
heard
my
that one.
gosh. That's like the boomer conspiracy for like a famous musician who didn't die, you know?
Hmm.
My dad's music. But yeah, I just looked it up. It was $10,000 from NYPD and then $50,000 from FBI. And it's just like, NYPD, we know you got money. They're like the third biggest police force in the world.
Who's the first?
Probably, I don't know, probably
California.
us. Oh, maybe. I don't know. I could look that up, but if we're going off of all kinds of tangents, we'll be here all night. But yeah, Golden Arches, man. Took down this American folk hero, and it was really interesting because he all of his social media was accessible publicly, and we
Mhm.
learned so much about him. And wouldn't you know it,
Talk
guy's a
about
right winger.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, talk more about because I didn't look up his social media or anything like that. Honestly, I have not been as fascinated about this story like everybody else or Tommy has been. Like I
yeah,
haven't really followed it like much
yeah.
at all. All I saw was this United Healthcare CEO was shot in broad daylight. Then
Hmm.
there's the manhunt. Like I would see things here and there. He was trending #1 on Twitter earlier, but other than that, I
Yeah,
have not.
yeah. I mean, I just think. I mean, did you ever have a family member who had a health insurance nightmare? You ever had that?
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Like, did they die in anguish and pain because they couldn't get the care that they needed, not wanted, but
not
needed?
like not like that, but
Yeah, my grandma went out that way. Yeah,
really.
yeah, she had like a type of cancer, and she just wasn't. She was just hit roadblocks on the treatments that she was needing. And I'm sure back then it was even more expensive than. Well, I mean, probably like lower quality care for still an exuberant amount of money.
When was
So,
this?
I mean, so I want to say it was before I was 12, so it's probably like 10,
Oh,
so probably 2001, 2002. Yeah, and that was like of all my grandparents, that was the most important relationship I had growing up. Um yeah, and the thing is like all my cousins, I got like 60 cousins, bro. We're Roman Catholic family on my mom's side,
I'm
you
South
know.
Sudanese. I probably have like 5,000.
Okay. Well, okay. It's a way to flex. All of my cousins all unanimously agree that we were our grandmother's favorite. Like I was such a grandma's boy. And then
Really?
just having to watch her slowly die and deteriorate, man, that just. And I remember we were like rushing to the hospital because we knew it was coming any day now for a long time. And then we were rushing to the hospital because we thought this is it. You haven't seen her in like 2 days or something like that. And like I get to the hospital, I get up on the floor where she is, and they say, it's too late. Dude, just devastated. I was just devastated. And it's like, she lived a good long life. It's just I wish she didn't have to suffer there at the end. you know?
Mm. What happened?
So
What, like, was it just the, like, pain medication that she was denied, or
yeah, she was in a lot of pain and, like, she was denied, like, nausea medications and stuff, and she was given I don't know, my mom could tell you more about it because my mom's in the healthcare, and she also was basically taking care of my grandparents as they got elderly and stuff, but, yeah, I mean, she just it wasn't I don't know why my head wants to say thyroid cancer because I feel like thyroid cancer is actually easily treatable, but I just remember it was just a kind of very painful ending, and I just remember just watching her, just the weight was coming off,
Mhm.
like, every day. It seemed like she was dropping pounds. So, I mean, it's just like and then you got hundreds of thousands of Americans who have these same horror stories about somebody. I have a one of my cousin's kid was born with spina bifida, and she was born
Mm.
right about the time that the Affordable Care Act was passed. And why is this important? Is because before the Affordable Care Act was around, they still had lifetime caps of $1 million. Like once the insurance pays for $1 million, you don't get anything else after that. You know,
Seriously?
yeah, and then that was one of the most important things Obamacare did was, like, remove that cap. It's like, you wanna be in the for-profit healthcare insurance industry, you're gonna insure people, there's gonna be no cap, you can't do pre-existing conditions, that was the other important thing it did. Like, she was born right around that time. I wanna say before or slightly after, but, like, it was in
What
the
year did
news
the
and they were
go what year did the ACA go through again?
2009, I wanna say, maybe
That
2010.
that was literally the year or a year before my nephew was born, and he was a preemie. He
Yeah,
was, like, 5 months
dude,
premature. He was 1
dude.
pound 4 ounces, like, I think before he left the hospital, like, he had
Mhm.
all like, his treatment had already surpassed $1,000,000.
Yeah, and just think that there's somebody on the other side of that at the health insurance companies thinking like, how can we save as much money as possible on this preemie child? And it's just like it's an evil. Like even some of the most conservative friends I have agree that there should be nothing between us and the medical provider. There should be no middleman, nickel and diming and having medical companies basically inflate their prices so they can give exuberant discounts.
Yeah.
Like even conservatives are like, there should be no middleman. I should be able to go to the doctor and pay the doctor what I can, and like we do know like this greedy middleman who does all this BS like negotiating, they inflate prices. They definitely do. Like a good example is when basically the entire insurance industry decided that LASIK surgery was basically cosmetic or whatever and would never cover it under any circumstances. LASIK surgery went
LASIK
for
was cosmetic?
yeah, it's considered an elective surgery, right? So at the time when they made this decision, they said, "We're not covering this at all. We're not going to negotiate this. We're just not going to pay for it at all. It's an elective. You can wear glasses, poor." But anyways,
Did you say
so
poor?
yeah, you pores, you better get in line, pores. You better start. What is it? Sad emoji on the United Health social
Dang.
media updates. So, anyways, like when the entire insurance industry decided that LASIK surgery was not going to be something they were covered, people who were given LASIK surgery was like, well, we got to figure out how to make this affordable. And now LASIK surgery is something that most people can pay for out of pocket
Hmm.
because it's like there's none of that nickel and diming and haggling and inflation of prices and demands for arbitrary, exuberant discounts. LASIK just figured it out. Like if it comes to any kind of medical treatment, that's a great example of what free market society is supposed to be.
Right. See, and
Yeah,
this just pegs the question of, like, what things in industry should just not be privatized?
yeah, railroad. I mean, those railroaders they wanted to strike so they could get paid sick or just sick days, not even paid sick days. And then unfortunately, like Congress that was Democrat at the time, and you had a Democratic president, Biden, basically block them from being able to strike. And it's like, here's the thing. If they are so important that you won't let them strike, they need to be a government entity. Like,
Yeah.
I can't strike. I'm a government employee. I get it. I accept that. But I also get great benefits and I get decent pay. But also, like, it's because I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. Like, the cost of living is good. So, I mean, it's like if an industry is just too important to let people strike, it needs to be nationalized. I'm not trying to sound like Karl Marx, but that's just the truth.
Really quick,
Oh,
this
this
is the
guy.
photo I sent you, yeah, or showed talked to you about.
Yeah,
Like
he told me he was ripped.
this is the photo that like the news agencies are like running through the mill right now.
What a handsome guy. You know what's messed up is when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, because the one of the bombers was kind of moderately attractive. Tons of people were like, "Oh my god, it couldn't have been him. He's hot." People are gonna fall in love with this
It's
guy as
you
long
know
as
what
he's
that's
not crazy.
called? It's called pretty privilege. But here's the thing: somebody was on Facebook said a 26-year-old Ivy League Italian hottie named Luigi
Oh,
was
jeez.
not on my bingo card, having a hard time with the fact that someone could meticulously plan an assassination and get caught at a McDonald's with a weapon, fake IDs, and a manifesto.
He kept
Unless
that
he
stuff
wanted to get
because
caught.
he wanted to get caught. You don't. It was a ghost gun. You can get rid of a ghost gun
Why do
pretty
you think he
easily.
wanted to get caught?
We'll probably tell a story. Probably. I mean, he has a manifesto. You don't write a manifesto if you don't want people to read it. You know, and like some of his like people that he admired was like Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Ted Kaczynski was like, he was actually really smart, but also really mentally ill. But like this guy expressed admiration. I mean, because his social media is just wide open. Like we know like a lot about him. He's a conservative. He's an Elon Musk fan. You know, he's like a fan of the Joe Rogan sphere. You know, like one of the things he advocated for banning Japanese sex toys because that's why they have a declining birth rate. Like, this guy was a conservative. It was interesting. And he liked Tucker Carlson. He had views on masculinity and physical fitness, like in line with like the, I guess what you would call the red pill sphere, like Fresh and Fit, that ridiculous show. Um,
Okay, all right. So then
you know.
then I just wonder what the motive was to go get around at this guy. Like, why the United Healthcare CEO?
So what we do know is that he had two grandparents who died pretty close to each other, and I think that critique. Majority claimed he acted independently. Manifestos of traditional forms of protest were ineffective. Yeah. I do apologize for any strife. Majority accused healthcare corporations of prioritizing profits over patient care, something that's true, referring to them as parasites.
He
I
referred to
don't have
who as
anything.
parasites?
Healthcare CEOs and companies. I don't see anything about like personal. Let's see. I didn't have any of that in my notes.
I can't get that song out of my head.
Oh no.
it
I didn't think it was that catchy, to be honest.
was I don't want to say it was a bop, but it's like one of those tunes that you're just like
Get stuck in
for
your
the,
head.
yeah, so it's a video that I saw on Twitter of people were just like, "Oh my gosh, they're making TikToks about this guy and stuff. They're making TikToks about like
Okay.
joking about the healthcare CEO getting unalived.
So yeah, it looks like he had two grandparents who died pretty close to each other in the 2010s, and probably had some kind of experience there. I think we would know. On his social media, he basically voiced a grudge because of his own interactions with the industry. He posted a bunch of X-ray photos on his X account, Twitter, showing 4 pins in his spine. He also worked at a a long-term care facility for elderly people, and
Oh
I can
yeah, I
just
did see that.
imagine those places, unfortunately, most of the time are just nightmares. So, I mean, he probably saw some pretty grim stories. I mean, before
Hmm.
you can get on Medicaid, you have to basically go through your entire life savings if you're an older American. Um, you got to be broke, absolutely broke, to be able to get Medicaid. And I imagine, like, for an old person who saved all that money over their entire life, to see it just evaporate, and they're just saying, "Oh, it's okay, it's totally fine. You as soon as you have no money, you get it paid for by the government. Oh, by the way, Medicaid is also a notoriously pain in the ass."
Well,
You
that's
know?
also like people create savings like that to pass on generational wealth, you know? So it's like
Yeah.
I've heard
I
stories of
mean,
people who've just like older folks like in nursing homes
yeah.
pretty much saying just I like I want to be done because I
Mhm.
don't want to like leave my family nothing. Guillermo says
Right.
on Facebook, the problem of the healthcare, the the problem with the American healthcare system is we are pro profit and not pro human.
Yeah.
That's the thing about like a lot of American industries, like the whole thing that Boeing was undergoing.
Mhm.
I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. So
Uh,
when you're looking at, oh, we got to pump out X amount of planes and we got to meet this quota and we got to deliver these and this. And like when you start looking at
mhm.
data and spreadsheets and numbers and money and counts of profit and record profits and things like that, you stop thinking that, oh, these are actual human lives that we're responsible for, right?
Yeah.
We are like these people are literally putting their lives in our hands to get them from point A to point B. They're paying for a service, but the number one our priority should be is safety, making sure everything is safe.
Mhm.
I watched the whole thing on the whole Boeing 877 Max or whatever it was,
Mhm.
and it was like they put in a just let me give a quick rundown. So, Boeing and Airbus are competitors. Airbus has
Mhm.
more international flights and stuff like that, or more by foreign airlines, I guess I should
Yeah,
say.
purchasers, yeah.
So, Airbus did a thing, if I'm remembering correctly, where they increased the size of their engine or something like that to create
Mhm.
a more efficient and like faster like flying experience or something. So,
Mhm.
Boeing needed to find a way to compete. And so they did the same thing, but Boeing planes are lower to the ground than Airbus planes are.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it was creating like a thing to where the plane would just like kind of pitch down. And so
Mhm.
to counter that, they put some kind of like system in that would, pretty much this is what it was. So the plane would kind of
Yeah.
like go up like this. So they put in a
Mhm.
system to make the plane level out.
Mhm.
But they didn't tell the pilots this. I think they said they got like a 30-minute like video training on this plane and
Mhm.
took off. They didn't tell them that there was this system
Yeah.
that would level the plane. And so the issues were that one tragic one was, I don't know if it was Indian Airlines or Air
I thought it
India.
was, like, Ethiopia. I wanna say it was, like, Ethiopia, no?
There were two, I feel like.
Okay. No, yeah, yeah, maybe, Indonesia? I know there was one was Ethiopia. I mean, I guess we could look it up, but it's, that's small
Sorry.
details.
Sorry guys, my AI camera is like trying to like frame. But
Yeah.
and it's like triggering from my hand movements.
Yeah.
So pretty much they didn't tell them that the system was in there. And so the pilots were like, what the freak is going on? Because the plane is steeply like pitching down. And so
Yeah.
they figured out that there's a system. And by the time they were able to disable it, it was already too late. They had already like it was a wrap. And so that's
Mhm.
just what to come full circle. That's the whole thing about industries, right? When you start privatizing things, and not saying that the airline industry needs to be a government industry, but I mean, this also goes into the whole thing of like deregulation, right? And letting
Mhm.
people like get away with stuff to make more profits. I don't know. It's crazy if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, and, just to be clear, like, I do like capitalism, okay? Just not the unfettered kind, and I know, like, some of
I
my
want a
leftist
private
friends
jet
would
one
boo me.
day. I want a private jet and I
No,
want a yacht.
you
Like,
don't need a okay, a yacht, alright. I mean, some yachts are not that big, to be honest, like, everybody thinks that there's, like, these huge things, but there are some
let me
yachts
show
that are
you.
actually nice.
I'll show you guys because I can dream. It's probably not going to happen, but go ahead, Tommy. You
Yeah,
talk. I'll show you my dream plane.
yeah. If
It's
you're
a
it's
Dassault
so
Falcon 6X in a contemporary design. But go ahead.
this is something I wanna get into more in the future, but, like, I think progressives and liberals, we have to view, like, leftists as our political adversaries, just like right wingers, because leftists are the type of people that say something like, "Oh, all capitalism is exploitation, and the system needs to be abolished." And it's just like those blow the system up type people aren't going to get you anywhere. Try running a campaign on that type of thing.
Hmm.
Um, Also, grow up. Like, come on. Um, so I mean, like, that's something that liberals and progressives do have to distinguish themselves from the future. But what I want is I want human-centered capitalism. I want good regulations and stuff. And if a company, like a pharmaceutical company, like what is it, Sackler? Oh, come on, Jazari.
This is I have been dreaming about this jet for like a couple of years now. I've watched so
Oh
many
my
YouTube videos.
gosh.
Look at the cockpit. This is what they call the Falcon Eye. Look at
Okay.
this.
How much does this cost? I mean, just to buy, not even to maintain.
I think like 50 million.
Oh my god, Jazari.
Look at
All
this.
right, well, I guess,
Look at this. The glass, right? So like the panel separating is like it's just it's just a fire plane. It is beautiful.
man, I think I'm being luxurious when I pick economy over basic economy. You know,
You don't want to
I'm just
hear what I'm
Jazari. You
flying.
better, as soon as we're done with this, you better delete this episode because it's gonna. That's when I guess the communist revolution starts. They're gonna be like, ah, see, he was one of those ruling class people.
Listen,
Yeah,
I can dream, right? So
yeah,
if
you
somebody's like, "Oh,
can.
I want this dream house," right? I want that
Mm-hmm.
HGTV dream house this year. That's okay, but I can't say that I want this jet.
Bro, I just wanted a house with good insulation, and I finally got it. You know. And I will completely honest people. You know, I work hard, but so does everybody else. I have this house because I basically married up into the upper middle class. Okay, luck is part of that equation of success, and anybody who's telling you it's not about luck is lying. Okay,
I
you
want a
know.
300-meter yacht.
Okay, 300 meters. Jeez, man. Okay.
Guys, I have dreams, okay? And it's okay
You
for
have
me to
dreams.
have dreams.
Okay, what about realistic ones? Like retirement? Like that's still almost, I mean, for a lot of people it's not realistic, but like,
Look at
nice.
this.
Oh,
It's like a
it is
mini
just,
cruise ship.
I say I do like capitalism, but I told you not unfettered capitalism, and this is unfettered capitalism. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, it is like a,
Look at that.
oh, what the heck is that? That's not this Falcon 6 or whatever it was, right?
No, that's and okay, and so the reason why I would go with Dassault is because they used to make military planes. I think in
Mm,
World War I or World War II.
okay.
And so
And
it's just like
Mitsubishi used to put motors in Japanese Zeros. So, and now I have a Mitsubishi heat pump on the side of my house.
Tommy, stop lying. If I got this yacht and I said, "Hey, let's go on a cruise to Hawaii," you would be there.
Nope.
Yes,
Nope.
you
Have
would.
you ever sailed? Have you ever sailed?
No.
Oh my gosh. I've sailed. Like with the sails, not with this stuff, not with the motor. And like I got, when I was living in Milwaukee, like Milwaukee, wait, no, Michigan Lake is right there. And it's just like, well, why not? Like let's go learn to sail, and oh, it was so much fun. So you should start there. You should get rated on like an actual sailboat first and then see if you like it, because some people would show up to these classes and they'd be like, oh, this is so exciting. They get on the boat and they lose their minds. Have you been on a ship before? You done a cruise or anything?
No.
Oh, just sorry.
I can dream. I can dream.
You might literally get on a boat for the first time and decide you don't like it. Oh,
Wait,
catamarans are cool, man.
I've been on a boat before.
Like what kind of boat?
Just like one at the lake.
Okay. I mean,
And
like,
I feel like that has more movement than a bigger ship would.
oh yeah, a big ship would be able
Like
to
I feel like
handle,
you would get more seasick or more like, get
No, for
water
sure.
sickness on a
You should
smaller
watch
boat, but
you should watch some of those videos where like a carnival cruise actually goes through like really rough seas. It's amazing. I'm never going on one of those cruise ships, man.
you've never
Anyways,
been on a cruise?
I never want to go on a cruise.
Why?
Oh, it just feels like a tin can. Like everybody's packed in like sardines and stuff.
I would
Catamaran.
like to have a catamaran.
Catamarans are pretty cool. Yeah.
I've
Um,
always wanted to get like a small vintage yacht and like which I
yeah.
guess isn't that like a catamaran?
No, a catamaran is like a double hull sort of thing, I believe. It's been a while since I've been into sailing because there's no actual sailable lakes here.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah, it's a
literally in the
double
middle of the
hull.
country.
Yeah, it's a watercraft with 2 parallel holes. We're really off on the deep end here.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
to bring it
Sorry,
back,
guys.
it's just like, yeah, what we need is human-centered capitalism. We need Medicare for all because you can still be a capitalist country, society with Medicare for all. I mean, 36 of the 37 developed nations in the world have Medicare for all. I mean, it just makes sense. When I was younger and Barack Obama was promising the public option, I thought it was a good compromise. But at this point, I know that like administrative costs and all of the shenanigans that the private healthcare and private insurance companies would do to undermine it would I mean, it's just got to be single payer system at this point. Um, so,
So,
anyways, we're gonna learn about this guy. He's gonna get his day in court. I'm sure it's gonna be a high profile trial. Would it be a state trial? I I don't know. Would it? I mean, I guess he crossed lines. I don't know. I gotta look that up. That'd be interesting because if it's a state trial in New York, we're gonna get like direct video. Like we're gonna get to see this guy interact in his suit and stuff.
dude, watch him wear that jacket.
Yeah, man. People were doing like adjust like
Cosplay
they're calling him
competition.
the adjuster. I mean, I've seen a few people refer to him as adjuster. I don't know if they're actually calling that, but people were doing like adjuster lookalike competitions in a park in New York City or something like that. So, anyways, I mean, we can go into the thing I wanted to talk about. How like yeah. Oh, did he? Or she? I think a
Can you
parliamentarian was a
believe the
she at the time.
parliamentarian basically held back universal health care back in the Obama years?
Well, Obama wasn't pushing for universal health care. He was pushing for the public option, which I agree would be way better than what we have now, and probably was the most fundable, one of the most fundamental things about what Obamacare was supposed to be. But he wasn't going for single payer. No, I mean the guy wasn't
Yeah.
even guy didn't even support gay marriage at the time. It still wasn't politically expedient. You know, like
Apparently,
Hillary
like,
didn't.
some of the black
Yeah,
churches got, like, really upset about that.
that he didn't support gay marriage, or that he
Well, that he said he
did.
didn't because, I mean, like,
Yeah,
conservatism in that aspect,
yeah.
and then when
It's
he
crazy
came
to
out.
think, like, you can still see videos from, like, 2008 where Hillary Clinton was like, "I agree marriage is between a man and a woman." And then, like
Hillary said that?
oh, yeah, she was, like, pro straight marriage for a very long time, and she didn't change until much later in her career, and, it's because it's all about, like, the winds changing, and trying to see where things are going and stuff, and,
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
I
what's the next talking point? What's the next talking point we need to hitch on to?
yeah, and, like, the thing is, like, I don't blame them. I mean, you have to navigate a very complex system, and if it's not gonna be them who steps up to it, some other opportunistic person will step up and and you know, I mean, it's just like, if you're not capable of navigating, like, the social maneuvering and the changing, culture of society, like,
Mhm.
you don't stand a good chance. And, like, here's a good example is Bernie Sanders has always been, like, pro gay rights, right? You can look at videos from the '90s or something like that where he's like
Yeah, Bernie's been
yeah.
very consistent.
Yeah, but imagine if we went right. If we went right wing instead of, less progressive on the issue, he would be blowing in the wind. He might not have even been reelected all these years. Like, you just never know where cultural winds are gonna shift. I mean, like, everybody thought in, like, the 2010s, looking at data, they thought that we were gonna be a much more liberal nation, you know? By
Mhm.
now. People were talking about how North Carolina's gonna be voting blue for the rest of history because Obama won it the first time. People were like, "Look, North Carolina's gonna be a blue state. It's only a matter of time before Texas is a blue state," and that didn't pan out, you know? So,
I
I
don't
mean, we
know,
can get
dude.
back on track.
But this court
Yeah.
case is going to be very high profile.
Yeah, I just hope he doesn't turn out to be a nut like Krasinski.
Well, I mean, the guy is was a valedictorian of his Ivy League like class.
I mean, but Krasinski was a very smart individual. I think he was a Harvard grad.
Oh.
Yeah,
But
man.
this is if it's a jury trial, it's gonna be like a jury of his peers, right? Yeah. So it's like a bunch
Yeah,
of
New
like
York.
kids in their 20s.
No, 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 no. Just the citizens of New York, in New York City, more likely, or whatever county
What do
New
you
York
mean?
City is in. It doesn't have to be a teenager. It can be an 80-year-old who lives in New York as long as they live in that county, you know?
Oh, really? It's not a jury of your peers?
Yeah, jury of your peers isn't like specifically for like certain demographics. Like I'm sure a young person will get on there, but jury of your peers means like normal laypersons such as yourself, you know, people from the public.
Okay, so what how does that so then do they like have when say your peer okay, so are there people on there that are kind of like in your like league or bracket?
Mm-hmm. But sorry, say that again.
Because if I remember right, like Donald Trump's trial, like the jury were like lawyers and doctors, like people who
Oh,
were like
that was just random.
that was
I
just the luck
mean,
of the draw.
well, yeah, but you have to
So
go
then
through jury.
what is the saying of the
It's not the
jury of
luck
your
of the draw.
peers? Does it just mean the
It
jury
just
of
means
like
citizens, just citizens.
man,
Um,
that doesn't make sense.
yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. You don't want a
No, it doesn't.
politician. You don't want a politician to be a juror. You don't want like a judge.
No, I'm talking
Like you're
about
gonna
like
bench
when I
press.
hear a jury of your peers, I'm thinking
Yeah.
people in your age group.
Remember, these were words that were written down like 300 years ago, 200 something years ago. 275. We're actually coming up on us. 2025 is going to be a big one, like 275 years or something like that. But anyways, yeah, like a long time ago, a juror of your peers just meant everyday people, you know. But I mean, a lawyer is an everyday person mostly. You know, I actually do think lawyers are kind of freaks, but you know, um, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
he's if this is a state crime, I do believe it's going to be the jury pool is going to come from people in the county. It might even be that way even for a federal crime. So Guillermo just asked about jury selection, and that's the thing is like they'll draft a huge jury pool. It'll be far more than 12, and then the defense and the prosecution will be able to go through asking these people questions, and they'll be able to object to somebody being included on the jury. Yeah. So Guillermo, like the philosophy is we need a diverse jury. We need people from all walks of life, races, religions, creeds, and stuff like that. We're trying to go for diversity. And this is why some people really complain. Like here in Nebraska, Cherry County is a county that's literally like twice as big as the state of Rhode Island, right? But you might live on one side of Cherry County and a trial might be happening on this other side of Cherry County. They will still call you for jury selection and you will have to drive many hours. And they say, well, why don't you just pick people who are closer? And it's like, well, because we randomly select you, you know?
Hmm.
We randomly select you and people are going to be randomly selected and they're going to go through jury selection and they're going to try to get 12 people and a few alternates. And that's peers. That's what peers means in that respect. It's not going to be a bunch of 26-year-olds who are absolutely shredded, apparently, you know? But I don't know. We could now I just feel like we're just talking about economic class. The thing I wanted to talk about today was actually kind of like it's kind of in a different, it's about race, like because this one tweet that came like, okay, so listen, conservative talking heads are all over the internet trying to like change this from class anger to about like a
A
racial
race,
divide
yeah.
or a gender divide and stuff like that. And there was this one tweet by Matt Walsh that really brought up like this really important piece of American history called the Bacon Rebellion. I don't know if you have slides. I could just talk about it. You don't have to like actually go to the
Did
slide.
you where did you put the slides?
It was in Canva. You sent me like a link to Canva.
Oh,
So
that's
that's where
where
they
that
are.
is.
Yeah, if you want a minute to just take that to pull that up. Hopefully it wasn't too much. I think it was like 5 pages. Yeah, just 5 pages. But it's one of my favorite stories in history, and it's something they didn't teach us in high school. It's something I had to learn, um, you know, on my own after I got out of public school. I remember them telling us about Bacon's Rebellion, but they didn't really tell us the full implications of it. So,
Okay, sorry, I'm pulling it up.
oh no, totally good.
Yeah, they're coming.
Jesus. So this was the tweet that just sent me back to like college history days. And while I do have a degree in math, it was a Bachelor of Arts, so I could study a bunch of history and not a
Do you have a
bunch of.
degree in math?
Yeah, I just don't use it.
I didn't know
Yeah,
you
but
had a
it was
math degree.
yeah, it's one of those things. I literally picked math because I didn't know what else to do. Like, that's just the truth.
Whew.
No, I'm serious. I just thought like, "Well,
I'm
math is
telling you,
well-rounded. Everybody thinks that's impressive, right?" And I'm
this
actually pretty
guy.
decent at math.
I don't know what I'm
But
gonna do. So let me go get a degree in math. I love that for you though.
I mean, people show up and they have undeclared, and it's just like, "Why don't you just take your gen eds?" Which gen eds are also a ripoff, but and they said, "Why don't you just take a few classes, figure out if you like something, and pay us that high tuition money?" But anyways, this is Matt Walsh. This guy is a right-wing hack. I mean, he's just always trying to exploit divide. He only ever talks about hot button issues, and he's always trying to just get people to feel and not actually like be informed or anything like that. But this was just like a really bad effort to try to shift class anger back to like racial divides. And I just thought this was the most like low effort and pretty much worst attempts at that. It's just so plainly clear. They're just trying to say, oh, the left is praising first degree murder because it was a white male. And it's just like, it's not just the left, everybody conservatives. I mean, the guy was a conservative. You got moderates who are telling you their horror stories. This has nothing to do with race or sex, but this guy's trying to go back to the old playbook because he's a mouthpiece for special interests, right? So it reminded me of the story of Bacon's Rebellion, and this is something I had to learn and write about in college. You can go to the next slide if you want, and I'll try not to keep it too in the weeds or something like that. But
Listen,
Bacon's
really
Rebellion.
quick, Matt Walsh
Go
could have
ahead.
just said nothing.
Yeah, but
He could have just
he's gotta say it. He was at the Supreme Court hearing for Scarametti, and he was on there talking like he did a protest, and he was just
Oh,
trying to
yeah,
call,
yeah.
yeah,
I saw that. I saw the
and it was
photos.
ridiculous. And he wants to talk about trying to take care of the children, but it's just like, okay, why don't you ever talk about childhood poverty? Why don't you support universal school lunch? You care about the children, you care about taking care of the children, but you never talk about like the things that are like the biggest problems for them.
Mhm.
Anyways, so this reminded me of Bacon's Rebellion, and essentially, like the punchline is because of this uprising in which poor white people, indentured servants, and black slaves they banded together to fight this rebellion against a pretty repressive colonial regime. This was before the United States was like became the United States. It was anyways. I have a passage from a book that I really like, and I'll try to keep it entertaining enough. But anyways, here's the first part. In 1676, 70 years after Virginia was founded, 100 years before it supplied leadership for the American Revolution, that colony faced a rebellion of white frontiersmen joined by slaves and servants, a rebellion so threatening that the governor had to flee the burning capital of Jamestown. And England decided to send 1,000 soldiers across the Atlantic, hoping to maintain order among 40,000 colonists. This was Bacon's Rebellion. And so that scared people, that basically lower class peoples were coming together and saying, we're not going to be exploited anymore. We will literally burn this place to the ground if you don't respect us and give us what you want. It's a little more complicated than I'm going to make it out to be, but
Is that on the next slide?
yeah, if you want to go into the next slide, just kind of
Oh,
what it just talks about what it was. Um, So this is just key events. I'm not going to read off of a slide like some people at my job do. It's just like I can read the slide. Why are you reading the entire slide? I'm just going to go
big and
into a few.
organized. A military. Da, 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 da. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So another passage from the book. What made Bacon's rebellion especially fearsome from the rulers of Virginia was that black slaves and white service joined forces. All through those early years, black and white slaves and servants ran together, as shown by both the laws passed to stop this and the records of the court. Like the thing is like back then, like there was no subtlety when it came to like passing laws to try to get what you wanted, to try to like get people to be subservient, right? I mean, a lot of people were illiterate; they couldn't even read like some of the debates that were going on about this stuff. But anyways, a report to the English government in 1721 said that in South Carolina, black slaves have lately attempted and were very near succeed a new revolution, and therefore it must be necessary to propose a new law for encouraging the entertainment of more white servants in the future. Like this is written down and indisputable, right? Because it's all throughout the laws that were passed. It's all throughout the historical records and the debates that people were literally saying, y'all, we have to figure out how to divide these people, and we should do it via race, right? So
Mm.
it, To continue, it also makes understandable why the Virginia Assembly, after Bacon's rebellion, gave amnesty to white servants who had rebelled, but not to blacks. Negroes were forbidden to carry any arms, while whites finishing their servitude could get muskets along with corn and cash. The distinctions of status between white and black servants became more and more clear. They were basically making a racial caste system, a racial divide, because they didn't want these people to like band together anymore. They wanted to make white folks feel like they were inherently better than black folks to keep them from like revolting right together. So anyways, reading a little bit further, racism was becoming more and more practical. Edmund Morgan, famous like historian, on the basis of his careful study of slavery in Virginia, sees racism not as a natural to black and white difference, but something coming out of class scorn and a realistic device for control. Quote, if free men with disappointed hopes should make common cause with slaves in desperate hope, the results might be worse than anything Bacon had done. The answer to the problem, obvious if unspoken and only gradually recognized, was racism, to separate dangerous free rights from dangerous black slaves for a scream of racial contempt. I don't know if you could make the argument that this is like the paramount event in American history that basically pretty much wrote the blueprint when it comes to dividing people by race. But this is one of the single best like examples of colonial ruling class going, we need to use race to divide these people so they won't realize that they have a lot in common, that they're being exploited, and that they'll and you know have them band together and basically overthrow us. It's one, I mean, like race is a really problem in America even today. And it's all because it is very expedient device. And this Matt Walsh tweet. Oh, I kept on forgetting to tell you to go to the
Go to the
slides
next
or
slide.
something like that. Yeah, sorry. Um I mean, this is just like a summary on how they shifted to racial divisions, and it's like they codified race-based slavery. Like indentured white servitudes at the time were like very common. If you wanted to go to the New World, you could basically sell yourself into slavery for a fixed amount of time, and then when you were free, then you were free to be in the colonies or something like that. Didn't really make everything better after that fact, but they basically decided, okay, the only people who are going to be slaves is black people, and we're going to make white people believe that they're better than black people, so they'll be divided, right? And it's all there in the history. It's all in there in the debate when it comes to the laws. Yeah, I mean, they gave them more legal rights. They really made the playing field just completely different between the two races. So, anyways, you can go to the next slide. But the long-term
That's the last.
legacy,
This is the
yeah, it's
one.
the last one. Yeah, the long-term legacy is it just basically just created a different kind of caste system between black and white people. And then of course, you know, there's other ethnicities that are also impacted, but that was the greatest divide. And so when I look at that Matt Walsh tweet, it's just a full mask off like hack way of trying to go back to the old playbook. Oh my gosh, working class people are united on this topic. We have to do something to make them not so united. We have to keep on getting them to fight each other and stuff like that. And he just like, he didn't even put any effort into it. It was such low effort. And he was just like, oh, well, it's the left. It's only the left. So there's shifting it to a political thing that is celebrating the death of a white man. They hate him because he's a white man. And if it was a black woman, they wouldn't be celebrating. It's like people would be celebrating. It would be the same thing because people would still be reminded of all the horrible things they had to go through with the health insurance provider. And so that's it. I mean, Ben Shapiro got ratioed in his own like comment section when it came to his little spiel. He tried making it about how it was only the left, and then all of his audience was like, Ben, you're wrong on this one. We totally get it. And they were gleeful too. I mean, I think it was gallows humor. I don't think anybody's out there is like legitimately happy, like just, and that's it. You know, there's more to it. There's certainly more layers. But I mean, it's just like, that's a pretty good indication that these people are grifters. You know, they're wanting you to feel something. They're not wanting you to know something. They aren't wanting you to give you the information that would actually make you like effective when it comes to trying to bring about change. And it's just like, when it comes to taking this on, progressives and liberals really need to start investing in new media because it's absolutely dominated by the right. And, like, I really hope that we can actually give them substance. I mean, I think that a lot of progressive content makers are also just going for, like, hot button issues and takes and stuff. But anyways,
Mm.
what's your take? What's your reaction to the Bacon Rebellion? I mean, very
I
glaring
think
moment in
I mean,
history.
it reminds me of how, like, what was that saying? Like, if you could teach a white man that he's better than,
Get Robin blind. I think that was, believe it or not, I think that was an LBJ quote. Um, and he wasn't saying that because it was a gleeful good thing. I mean, he is somebody who really helped the Civil Rights Act pass. He was just telling you how it is on that one, if I remember the quote correctly.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a whole thing too. Like, I keep telling you, like, I came across this post that was like, what happens when a majority of the country can no longer afford basic like living expenses, or pretty
Yeah,
much like just live, and
yeah,
that's where you get things like le French Revolution and stuff like that. But that's what you mentioned. But I don't know. I think it's just one of those things too. It's like I said, he didn't have to say anything, but I think he
hmm,
just wanted to get in on it. Because I mean, if you look at, everybody tries to capitalize off a situation like this,
hmm,
and
hmm,
I'm sure he gets paid off of engagement on X and all this kind
yeah.
of stuff. So I think it's just about trying to capitalize on a movement. Um,
No, for sure,
but
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 it's never this glaring, you know?
yeah. Oh, it's not. And that's the crowd that's always like, "Oh, why does it have to be about race?" Right? Like,
Mhm.
and now they're using that as a tactic to like whip up their base and things. But
Yeah,
like you said, it fell flat for a lot of them because,
yeah,
you know, getting screwed over by health insurance companies is something that like transcends political and,
mhm. Yeah, I
transcends
mean, it's
political
one
lines.
of the most effective tools in American history to keep people at each other's throats, Abortion became that, and, like, it was after Eisenhower. I think it really took off with, Reagan. I don't even think that, Richard Nixon talked that much about abortion. It was a an LBJ quote, by the way, and it's, "If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. He'll hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you." And it's just like, damn, such a cold quote, but so true, you know?
That's crazy.
People went to the polls, um, and I'm not gonna tell you it was the main thing because I can't prove it, but race and gender definitely played a role
I think it was
in
the
this
main thing.
election. No, the main thing was, I mean, and I have numbers to back it up, is the absolute cratering of the youth turnout. We had 3 consecutive election cycles of record-breaking youth turnout, and places like Tufts University, and there was one other places, they really keep a keen eye on youth sentiment, especially the 18 to 29 demographic. And what I mean, we have the proof that that was probably the reason why Harris lost, because something like we were hovering at like an average of 50% in the last 3 cycles of youth turnout, and this is records. We're breaking records at this point, and then it
At
cratered
3%?
50%.
Oh, 50%. Sorry.
So we're breaking records at this point. 2020 was like a little over 50%, which is crazy for youth turnout to, the 18 to 29 demographic. And then it cratered to 10% in 2024. And why it did was and I can give you the stats. People were polled. There's been analysis. It was because of the Gaza protesters. Speaking of which, this is a good segue. Do you have those videos?
Yeah, I do.
If
I
you want to
have
go into
a
that, we could save it for another time, but yeah. I mean, I'm
No, we can
sorry,
go
like,
into it. So,
Harris. Go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say, before we talk about this next segment, I did reach out to these groups to see if somebody would come on and talk to us about this and
Mhm.
give us their perspective and why they chose to go about this protest the way that they did.
Yeah.
And they respectfully declined. And so, but we're still gonna kind of discuss what happened because there was a protest that took place during the annual tree lighting ceremony, in the rotunda at the Capitol here in Lincoln,
Mhm.
Nebraska yesterday. And so they posted a lot of, I mean, not a lot, like a good amount of like videos of different angles of this protest that took place. But go ahead and
Yeah,
I feel
while you
like,
search for the videos.
Okay, I
If
feel like
anybody comes on, there's gonna be a battle of words because I literally look at the numbers and I can't help but see that the Gaza protests. I don't know what they want to call their movement. I apologize if I'm not capturing that accurately, but this demoralized youth turnout, and we know from polls that the youth who voted in 2020, who came out and pretty much put Biden over the top, or was one of the biggest pieces to that, they were absolutely demoralized by what was going on in Gaza. And the especially 18 to 29-year-olds, like, reported that that was a huge part of why. I mean, they were hugely concerned with it. And I'm sorry, I think the numbers are there to prove that these protesters and all the propaganda they put online, Genocide Joe, somebody called the state party chair here for the Democrats Genocide Jane.
seriously,
Pretty good alliteration, I'm gonna be honest with you
Killer
there.
Kamala.
It's that not as good a alliteration as Genocide Joe or Genocide Jane, but, like, this was just a tactic to say somebody likes genocide, to just shut them up and quiet their voices, an easy kind of sort of canceling, right? To dismiss, "Oh, Kamala loves genocide. Don't vote for her because that's a vote for genocide." And it's like, "Okay, well, you didn't vote for her. Youth turnout cratered, and now we have
Sh
Donald
well
Trump
well,
who's"
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
she lost, so I guess that was to, I don't know, teach her a lesson or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and now it's kinda just like, now Donald Trump is the one that you guys have to work with.
And let's go into the details. He's stacking his administration full of Christian Zionists. Miriam Adelson doesn't give you $100 million because she's feeling good, because she's being nice. She wants Trump to annex the West Bank. And under Harris presidency, annexation of the West Bank would never happen. And
And
it
she was
is
the
a
only one that talked about, like, a permanent ceasefire and a two-state solution, and people were just like, "Well, why
well,
don't you do it now?" Because the vice president does not have legislative power, or she does not have the vice president doesn't have the, like, the pull to do that kinda stuff.
listen, the kind of reform you're going to need is not as sexy as going on here on this self-righteous crusades and a tree lighting ceremony. Seriously, in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I saw some of my friends who do the same rounds on social media saying, "Oh, this is so great." And it's just like, you're the only ones who think this is great.
Let's play,
Seriously? I mean, you had
let's
a
play
kids choir.
let's play
Jesus.
a couple of these so people can kinda get context of
Sure.
what we're talking about.
Boycott Israel! Arms embargo on Israel now! Arms embargo on Israel now! Stop the genocide! Stop the genocide! No more genocide on our dime! Support America, not Israel! Stop sending our taxes to kill innocent.
Getting back to much and recognize how our best friend is Jesus. Our best friend is Jesus. If we talk to him every single day, if we talk to Jesus multiple times a day,
That is so
he
annoying.
shows us the light.
Free, free Palestine!
The more we talk to
Free,
him,
free Palestine! Jesus will
I mean,
All right. Well, there's that high and tight.
that's not him.
That's not him. But it's high and tight.
being the mother of Jesus, thinking of flag days.
We wish you'd stop the genocide! We wish you'd stop the genocide! We wish you'd stop the genocide! And that's why we're here!
So, this is where I kinda get confused too, because it's just like a lot of I've seen people demonize the Biden-Harris administration and say all this stuff,
Mhm.
and then discourage people from turning up to the polls. She lost. Then still continue to talk about, "Oh, if you supported Donald Trump, like, this is what he wanted and this and that," and it's just like let me hold your hand while I say this. This is the two-party system we work in or we live
Yeah,
in. This is what we have to this is what you have to operate in. These are your two options. And
unfortunately.
oh yeah, so it's like it's either this or it's either this. And it's just like all the other good all how do I say this without trying to be slanted one way or the other? It's just like you
They're the
have to
least
come
bad,
yeah,
and
like for you guys, Donald Trump was the lesser of two evils. Okay. So now you like that's who you have to talk to. That's who you have to go up against because on January 20th, like I said before, Kamala Harris is going to show up, do whatever she needs to do, give JD Vance and his wife a tour of the Naval Observatory. Her and her husband are going to do everything they need to do. They're going to shake hands, smile, wave, do all of that stuff. And as soon as it's over, she's getting on a jet and she's flying back to California to live her rich bougie lifestyle and go and relax. And that's it. And then so the people that you have to work with now and that you have to deal with is going to be Donald Trump and his, Secretary of State. Those are
who
the
is a
people
Christian nationalist.
those are the people you're going to have to deal with. And so it's just like if this was your end goal, that was the time. November 5th was the day. November 5th was the time. That was the election day, right?
Yeah,
That's it.
something like that. I don't know, it feels like 10 years ago.
So
Listen,
now it's kind of just like, so now, like, and that's why I really wanted to have somebody come on here and talk about this. But like I said, they decided not to, or
sure,
respectfully declined to be
makes
like,
sense.
what is this supposed to accomplish? I understand that protest, like in our country, has had a history of like violent protesting. You know what I mean? Like the Boston Tea Party. You think that was an actual tea party? No, it was
Sure.
lit. So it's just like I get that, but at the same time, it's just like November 5th was the day. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah.
now what?
Well, let me put it this way. This is the most petulant, selfish, egotistical movements I've ever had to witness in my entire life. And I
You think
studied
so?
history. Yeah, of course, because this does nothing. Like the civil rights movements and leaders in the civil rights movements understood you can't get anything without getting people elected, you know?
Mhm.
And these people let perfect be the opposite of good. And honestly, the only thing they're doing is they're making themselves feel warm and smuggy on the inside. Okay. Youth turnout crashed because of this. I'm sure these Killer Kamala and Genocide Joe, I'm sure that played ad nauseum on like TikTok and other social media.
Mm.
Listen, a friend pointed out to me, a very smart individual told me that if these people were alive back in the civil rights era, they would deride MLK for being too passive. You know, they'd say, well, first of all, we need to tear the system down and we need to be more aggressive and we need to get into people's faces. And also, what's with the vertical leadership? We don't need hierarchy. We need horizontal leadership with no real face. And it's just like, it's so ridiculous because I mean, just why can't you take a page out of the book of the most successful civil rights movement in American history? You know, what would they have done in this situation if this was their topic? Candlelight vigil. They would pass out leaflets, you know? And I know that doesn't seem that doesn't seem like it's gonna get anything done, but remember, it's the most successful civil rights movement in American history. And also, I just gotta be honest, these people are incredibly privileged. If the people of the civil rights movement did aggressive stuff like this, they would be murdered. Legally murdered. You're absolutely
Yeah.
privileged you're able to
I
be
mean,
this
even
aggressive.
I mean, just like yeah, even just like the bus boycott, right? Like
Yeah.
just sitting in the seats,
Boycotts,
not
yeah,
doing anything, just sitting in the seats and getting arrested and beat, like and getting
yeah,
dogs sicked on you and being hosed with fire hydrants and stuff.
yeah.
Like,
To their credit, they are doing some boycotts, but this is the thing. Yeah, sit-ins, Guillermo. I mean, it's just like that wasn't aggressive in your face. They just sat there and it helped change American history. It's like this is
have you
aggressive in
have
your
you
face.
seen the
There's little
die-ins?
kids there. There's little kids there. And like we know from child psychology studies that this type of aggression just it might seem like such a small thing, but these kids are not gonna understand what's going on. They're gonna be turned off to protesters. They're gonna remember these people as aggressive, and they're also incurring some trauma. Like, little kids, like, they take some trauma in when they see this really aggressive things, and it's just like, none of this is really a tree lighting ceremony in the capital of Lincoln, Nebraska. And online, the people that support this say, well, you're supposed to create awareness and it's supposed to be inconvenient. And it's just like, who doesn't know about the Gaza situation right now? Right? Marches too.
Mhm.
Guillermo knows this history. And it's just like, you want to know why the Democratic Socialists of America don't engage?
Yeah, actually, the marches, the Million Man March, right? Like,
And they were, I know there were race riots. I get it. But the civil rights leaders who were most successful understood, unfortunately, you need the moderate. You need to be able to have people get elected to Congress. Okay.
really quick, that guy, the adjuster, Luigi,
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
Twitter following has skyrocketed 220.1K.
Guys,
He's
he ain't
almost
tweeting.
he's almost to a 250,000 followers on
He
Twitter.
ain't tweeting. And we're already learning that he was kind of in the manosphere and he was like one of those lonely male
Yeah.
people who had conservative views on sex and stuff like that. But it's just like what are you accomplishing when you're going to do your little protest at a Lincoln City Council and you're going to talk about genocide at city council? I mean, some people in San Francisco were successful in bullying their city council into passing a resolution for a ceasefire or something like that. And they applauded and they patted themselves on the back. And it's just like nobody cares about the San Francisco City Council's resolution when it comes to foreign policy. Literally has nothing to do with them.
And
These people, the local people, they protested the Lancaster County Democratic holiday party outside somebody's house.
seriously?
What? Yeah. I think the
I didn't hear
tactic
about
is
that.
I think the tactic, I was there when I back when I was
You
still
were
like,
Oh, you were there when that went down?
yeah, I walked in and they were staying on the sidewalk and they weren't being overly aggressive at the time, so I give them credit there. But it's just like, guys, show up to a Lancaster County Democratic Party meeting. Like, you're gonna understand that you didn't really make anything happen there.
So, the other thing, like,
No offense to them.
the other thing about all of this, it's like, this is why leadership is so hard. Like, for instance, the way Harris campaigned,
Mhm.
like, she had to be strategic about it, right? Like, she couldn't come out there and be like very in your face, like how people would want her to be, right? Like, there's a method to how you go about doing this.
Yeah.
And her saying she wanted a 2-state solution and a permanent, is my mic like going in and out?
Yeah, it's going in and out. That's what I'm hearing.
So her saying, she's going to advocate for a ceasefire and a permanent ceasefire, and thinking a 2-state solution is the best option moving forward. Trump didn't say that. He didn't say anything about all this. He's like, oh, I just want it to end, but he never specified how he wanted it to end. At least you got her on record saying something. Whether or not she lives up to that is what it is. But had she came out and said all the things that people wanted her to say, I mean, things could have escalated there and we could have gone to a hot war with Iran, right? Like,
Yeah.
could have, like, you have to kind of like balance this line of signaling, I see you and I hear you, right? I got you. Relax. This is what I'm going to say, but know that I see you and I hear you. This, at least she signaled that. And honestly, like, do I feel like she would have like followed through with everything? I don't know, but I don't take her as like a disingenuous person. I feel like she's an actual empathetic leader,
Sure.
Um, and so, yeah, because now it's just like, what would have happened if she said all that stuff? She got elected, but then we're now in a hot war with her. I don't know. I'm not running for president. Never will probably run for president. But you get what I'm saying.
So here's an interesting thing. Like, I think close to a year, it was closer to like 6 months after the October attacks. Like, Gallup did a poll. It was Data for Progress did a poll. So it was December 2023. Data for Progress did a poll and revealed that 61% of likely voters supported a U.S. calling for a permanent ceasefire and de-escalation of fraud. But they also found that 50% of U.S. adults approved Israel's military actions in Gaza, 45% disapproved. And a whole year later, in December 2024, it's the same. It's 50% approved, 45% disapproved, 5% don't know or didn't respond. You haven't moved anyone. Getting into people's faces, screaming in their faces like this, it doesn't fly. They don't think about your message. And not to mention, Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The economy and immigration are at the top of their priority list, and this is at the very bottom. You know, you got to get people elected. And what you did is the opposite of that. You got a bunch of Christian Zionists elected. And you have to, I mean, there's just conclusive evidence of it.
So I've heard people say like, oh, like, at least I can go to sleep knowing that I voted, for Jill Stein and I didn't vote for either one of them. And I'm like, but that doesn't really like change anything. Like that doesn't really help anything. Jill Stein is a vapor candidate. I'm going to email her and see if she'll come on. She went on First Guy Omaha. Like that live stream show they do out of Omaha, she went on that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit her up and, be like, hey, can you come on? Because like before this last election cycle, she was like gone for like 4 years. Like people are like, what has Jill Stein been up to?
Yeah.
Like, what has she been doing? Like she got fined like $130 million. But other than that, like where's sis been? So it's just like, are you going to call her now? Like,
yeah. Well, like you said, she's a vapor candidate. Like the Green Party only shows up every 4 years during a presidential election trying to play spoiler. That's it. I mean, they do no actual organization at lower levels in the off seasons on off presidential election years. And it's just like to fall for this racket every time. Like anytime you ask her, like, what's your plan for getting people in Congress or the Senate or governors and managers, she's got nothing. Her whole plan is to win the presidency and somehow all the Democrats and the Republicans, because they don't contest any of those other races, right? Senate and Congress. Her whole plan is just to somehow like wish cast all of this into, I mean, dude, there's spoiler candidates. And listen, if Miriam Adelson gets what she wants and they annex the West Bank, where are those Palestinians going to go? Probably a Warsaw-style ghetto. What are you going to do? You're going to protest harder? Or are you going to actually grow up and try to get people who are sympathetic to your cause elected? Yeah. Like I mean, you need people. Like people understood that a long time ago. This aggression wins nobody over, and we have the polling to show that nobody has changed their mind over Gaza over a year, despite all this flooding the zone. And then also people understood you got to have people in Congress. And it's just like you guys.
Okay, hold on really quick. One other thing too, that now that I'm looking at this, so some of these guys, like I recognize them, they're a part of like executive protection. So they're a part of the state patrol.
Yeah.
Another thing for people watching, like, I mean, people like when this is going on, what the frick is going on? Okay. Another thing is like, don't try to be a hero. I mean, like, when you see these guys like stand up like they're going to do something, like don't escalate it. Let the security that is there do what they feel like. Don't get involved like that. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, but I mean, like this is emotionally charged, aggressive rhetoric. I understand if somebody snaps.
I understand that. So like this guy standing right here, right? So if this guy sitting right here stands up and gets in his face and starts pushing back, like he's gonna like take care of the situation. It's like that's what I'm saying. Like don't.
Yeah.
Don't do
I mean,
that.
I took care of a situation recently on
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that was I mean, like, okay.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, but these people are being aggressive.
Okay, all right.
Hold on.
You need to identify yourself. Jesus was Palestinian. He was born in Palestine.
It's just egotistical. It's just feeling warm and smuggy. Like this is so ridiculous.
Whoa, you don't leave him alone. You're not a security guard. Hey, you're grabbing him? Okay, all right. You need to identify yourself.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like, dude, like, why did you stand up? Because like at the end of the day, couldn't like you technically assaulted the guy? If the guy's standing there yelling, in the rotunda of the people's house, and you get up and you grab him like in an
Oh
aggressive
yeah,
manner.
plainclothes in NSP who was there.
Yeah.
Listen, man, this isn't changing any ideas. Take a page out of the civil rights movement book. You got to have moderates. Try running on this. Try running for office on this. You want to know why the Democratic Socialists of America aren't actually a political party, even though they behave like one? It's because they know they could never get elected with their ideals. They don't actually sign up and run candidates. They're not registered political party, as far as I'm aware. Maybe they changed their mind because they know you can't get elected off of this. This is just selfish. This is just making yourself feel warm and smuggy, like you're doing something. But then, we have a good chance at Gaza being settled and the West Bank being completely annexed. And Israel just pushed into parts of Syria as the Assad regime just collapsed. You're doing nothing. You're accomplishing nothing. You need allies in Congress. And sorry, if you want somebody to be elected that is going to be sympathetic to your cause, you have to convince moderates. Just this blow up the system stuff is childish. It's selfish, and you might have just made things worse. And I understand you can't go make that case. Hey, you know how it's a nightmare over there? And it is. It is a nightmare over there. It is genocide. I agree with all of that, even though people tell me I'm a lover of genocide because I dare oppose them. Like, I know trying to argue, hey, you know how it's a nightmare? Well, it's going to get worse. And it's just like, it's already a nightmare. How do you reach somebody like that? But at the same time, when we get there and when it is worse off, and I hope I'm wrong, but when it is worse off, that's when we can tell you, like, dude, we told you it was going to be worse and it got worse. But I'm glad you felt good at your little drum circle protesting in a place where it didn't matter. City councils, holiday parties for a county party.
If you really want to do something, I mean,
sorry, I'm a little emotional.
No,
right
it's cool. Like, go to the people who actually have like the real power. Like, the city council does not have power over this.
Yeah.
Your U.S. senator does.
Here's the
your
problem.
U.S. congressman. I mean, when you go to federal representatives, like,
yeah,
they actually, can speak with the Secretary of State. They can actually get in contact with these people. Not saying that the governor can't, but it's just like, why would he want to after this?
This is yeah. I mean, listen, it's not sexy, but you need reform before you're going to get. I mean, our Congress is captured by like AIPAC and the Israel lobby. It's just true. But how do you take that on? Is it yelling and being aggressive in front of kids at a tree lighting ceremony? No, it's not so sexy reforms. It's money in politics. It's gerrymandering. I mean, publicly financed elections. If you want everyday Americans who actually care about this stuff to actually be able to do anything, you got to pretty much take on the fact that our Congress is captured by a bunch of special interests who never want to give you what you want.
So, okay, so I might have missed it. So then how do you go about that? Like, how do you go about fixing that?
Well, I mean, you got to get examples of how these reforms can work, and we already have examples of why gerrymandering is bad and why we should get Congress to pass legislation to get rid of gerrymandering, ban it across the nation. But it's not very sexy. Doesn't really get clicks. When it comes to money in politics, we can all agree that Congress is captured by special interests. But what do? Well, we can't do defensive legislation to like make sure there are caps and huge like better disclosure statements. But what we can do is publicly financed elections. And you can actually get that happening at a city council level. You can do that. Like I was trying to convince the city council that they could do something like ranked choice voting. And I've since changed my mind on that. But you can do all kinds of things at the city council level. And you can pass the publicly financed election program like they did in Seattle. And I think they do it in New York City too. You agree to moderate spending and raising caps, and you get access to publicly funded.
So you mean like ranked choice voting at the city level?
No, that I was originally a proponent of getting ranked choice voting in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we had lawyers look into it to see if it was permissible. And like actually, a city of the primary class, which is what Lincoln is, actually has their laws. I'm putting you to sleep here, but the laws that dictate
you're not.
cities of the primary class in Lincoln are actually really wide open. Like when it comes to the metropolitan class that Omaha is, it's the only metropolitan class in Nebraska, and Lincoln's the only primary class. They like realized a long time ago that Omaha could just completely swing the direction of Nebraska. So they put a lot more effort into codifying restrictions for cities of the metropolitan class. But they didn't for the primary class. I don't think they thought about Lincoln becoming a huge population when they wrote the laws. But we had lawyers look at it, and we gave opinions to the city council saying this is permissible because they just didn't ban it when they were writing chapter 15 of the state statutes or something like that. But I've since changed my mind on alternative voting systems. That is something you need. Unfortunately, I think people are just turned off by ranked choice voting because of how the tabulating works and how it takes a long time to get results. And I've since become a proponent of something that's kind of called, like, it's a variant between first past the post and ranked choice voting. I like to call it united choice voting, but it's basically just a variant of something called Bordetella voting. The variant that I would support is, okay, listen, every election you get top 4 primary. It's just a regular primary, top 4 vote getters, they go to the general. But when you get to the general, you have your first choice and your second choice. First choice gets 2 points, second choice gets 1 point. So this would take the sting of like vote splitting away. You could actually feel good about voting for a third party because you have a backup, right? This would take like, I don't know, I have a whole list of it. I'm not actually really prepared to like tell you about anything, but basically strategic voting and vote splitting is what keeps us in a two-party system, is we have to come up with an alternative. Unfortunately, I mean, I thought for a very long time it would be ranked choice voting, but the ranked choice voting efforts got absolutely creamed this last cycle. They went 0 for 4 in state balloted measures, and they almost got repealed in Alaska. And I think it's just because people are sitting around going, why don't we have results yet? You know, because it takes a while. It takes like 2 weeks, right? But with united choice voting, it's 1 round. Like people go by a point system instead of a vote system. Your top choice gets 2 points. Your second choice gets 1 point. There you go. I mean, that could be something there. But yeah, I mean, it's just these really unsexy reforms that you need to support. You're never going to be able to get what you want when Congress is captured in the way that it is. Why don't you work on that?
Really quick, I do want to show this video because you were talking about, how you get, like, how some forms of protesting are not conducive to your message. So this is Peter Protester crashing Pharrell's Piece by Piece TIFF premiere.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Pharrell. Yes, you're right. God bless you.
Oh, Jesus.
God bless you. God bless you. Okay. Rome wasn't made in a day. And sometimes when you have plans to change things in situations, you have to get in a position of power and of influence where you can change people's minds and help aggression. That is not necessarily the way to do it.
Yeah,
That's okay.
exactly.
When that change comes, everybody in this room will remember that I told you we're actually working on that. And if she would have just asked me, I would have told her.
You see? And he won everybody in that room. She lost everyone in that room. He understands it takes an adult approach. I'm sorry, Guillermo. There's no time and place for those little
time and place. I agree.
Selfish. Those little that's all they're doing is they're making themselves feel better. That's it.
Tommy,
you're not gonna end the embargo when we have a captured Congress, and this is run for office on this. Go ahead, like get in there, run for office on this, and see what happens. I
do agree that there's a
it's frustrating.
There's levels and steps to this, right? So it's just like, would doing this be more conducive than like pressing your US senator? Do you know what
I mean? But you're not going to convince Deb Fisher and Pete Ricketts to abandon Israel.
Well, okay. Well, then, we had an independent who was running, right? Like, who was probably much more accessible to talk to. and explain like, hey, like
Much more independent in his funding.
we can we can sorry.
Yeah, but Guillermo, you don't have an absolute right to protest. You have to like actually sign up and get permits for it. Nobody has an absolute right to most of the things in the Constitution. You can't show up to a tree lighting ceremony all aggressive and in people's faces. And then also let's think about like the practicality.
No, okay, so inside the Capitol like that, like they can't kick people out. Like they can't hold like a private event like that. Like it was a public event. So however,
they can't kick people out. I see them do it all the time.
But what I think he means is like, hold on, let me read his comments really quick. He's saying like, okay, so you have a right to say what you want when you go there. I mean, like free speech has its limitations, but let's say if you want to show up and you want to protest with your signs, go ahead and do that. But just know that that might backfire on your. Sorry, guys, this mic. But it's just like a no that like, hey, this could backfire on your movement, right? So like this might not be conducive. So if you want to do it, go ahead and do it, but just know that it can make things worse.
Yes, it's a public event, Guillermo, but you don't have a right to go in there all aggressive and stuff like that. NSP has laws that allow them to remove people from the state capitol. Like, and when you have large protests, like you have to file for a permit. I don't know how many people they had, but it's just like, yeah, I know it's a public place. I can't go into the Capitol right now. Dude, I can just walk in. You think I can just walk in?
Yeah, it's closed. Right?
They have rules, is my point. They have rules, and the NSP wasn't kicking you out breaking the rules. They're kicking you out because you broke the rules. All right, but we don't even have to get into the law of it, man. It's just like you convinced no one, traumatized a few kids while you did it. You convinced no one. The only people who liked it were the people liking and sharing on social media, but those are the same people who agree with you beforehand. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just like I'm such a huge history nerd, and I am absolutely infatuated with the civil rights movement. And it's like you have to make your choices, man. You gotta like, are you gonna be an MLK or are you gonna be Malcolm X? And remember, Malcolm X reformed at the end of his life. He left the Nation of Islam and he stopped being so aggressive and stuff because he knew it wasn't working. He knew MLK was actually getting things done. It's just like, why can you not look back at history and figure this out?
See, and that's kind of just why, like, I actually really, really did want them to come on. I mean, we were.
Oh, I don't think they would like me.
Well, I mean, I just think that like, but that's the thing too. It's like you gotta understand that like not everyone is going to fully agree with your tactics, right? Like not everybody is going to just like fall in line, and you got to be prepared for that, right? Like you have to be prepared to know that not everyone is gonna fall in line. So you have to have some kind of contingency plan on how do you pitch this, right? So like how do you spin this in a way that like actually changes people's minds from a potentially off-putting look at like a protest like this to, okay, I understand why you did it, why you went about it this way. I mean, just silently being in the corner or along the wall holding up a sign could still have the same effect. People are still going to see it. People are still going to hear it.
Yeah, Guillermo, he was shot by the Muslim Nation of Islam because he left the Nation of Islam and disavowed like the aggressive tactics of the Nation of Islam. Or was it the Nation of Islam? I don't know. Sorry, I'm just so entertained. I don't know by the comments. I'm so distracted. I don't know. Yeah. These people are clout chasing. They're chasing likes on social media. I mean, come on. Public opinion and support for Israel has not dropped. Okay, it hasn't. And now you have a bunch of Christian Zionists who are going to be running the government now. Congratulations, Mike Huckabee, he's so far much of a Zionist. He's probably going to make people in Israel feel, wow, this guy's weird. He's so into it. He's going to be the ambassador to Israel. Congratulations. I'm glad you tanked youth turnout. But hey, you made a point. You stuck by your ideals. Great. Does it never occur to people that you can protest and protest and protest somebody vote for them because you know you're doing harm reduction, and then keep protesting them. Did that ever occur to anybody? No? Okay, fine. You know. But yeah, whatever. Whatever. I mean, I have some feelings about it. I have a few takes, you know. I try to keep
Yeah,
sort of
I know you
polished
do.
composure, but go ahead.
No, it's cool because I mean, I
It's all
can't deal
right.
with this
I mean,
meme.
we should
Like,
probably call it good here in a little bit anyways, but it's just like
yeah,
I hope they hear this. I hope we can have a discussion, and I hope I could let them know that like you're not doing anything conducive. There's no production here. Opinion polls haven't shifted at all. And you like I've pushed back to some people, and you
so
know what their
okay,
go-to is? Go ahead.
what's their pushback?
Their go-to is to tell me that I love genocide. And it's just like, are you just trying to quiet me? Like that's your trump card? You're not going to engage?
I mean, that's kind of
Like
just like you're anti-Semitic if you criticize anything.
same thing. Yeah, no, that's the same thing that they're being called anti-Semitic. But now you got people like Marco Rubio, Ellis Stefanik, Pete Hegseth, maybe. I don't know if he's going to survive. These
Yeah,
people these are the people who call the people of Gaza scum. They call Gaza a breeding ground of horrible anti-Semitism. They're going to be leading our government now. Congratulations.
well, so Guillermo, to address your comment here, he says Biden was a Zionist. However, I mean, if you think of the new Secretary of State pick, Mike Huckabee, that's Mike Huckabee, right?
Yeah, no,
If I
Mike Huckabee is State Secretary is Marco Rubio, Christian Zionist, and Mike Huckabee is going to be the ambassador to Israel, also a huge Christian Zionist, probably the
doesn't
biggest one
even
there is.
refer to the West Bank as the West Bank. He calls it
Yeah,
Judea and Samaria.
and he believes they should annex it because it's their land. You know,
And
Miriam Adelson and her husband like single-handedly funded Trump in 2016. Not single-handedly, but they basically their demand was move the embassy to Jerusalem and recognize the Golan Heights as Israeli territory. And now Miriam Adelson gave Trump even more money, and she wants West Bank to be annexed. So if that happens, way to go. Awesome, y'all. But at least you feel good about yourselves. That's, you know.
I am very curious to see how this all plays out, because I mean, so even Trump was talking about how like what was his post on True Social or Twitter or whatever, saying that like
Mhm.
they're release the hostages or there's going to be huge like repercussions, and people are like, I thought you were anti-war, dude. Like,
Mhm. He's not.
so it's just like,
There goes your mic again. It's all right. We should probably call it soon.
yeah, we should.
Do you know what's doing that? Is mine doing that?
No, yours is not doing that. Hold on.
Is yours have like an automatic adjust or something going on? Anyways, this is how show business goes, people. No. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and like we haven't even gotten to the other implications. You know, right? Skirmetti is probably the most important trans right case in history right now. And you know what? You probably helped do. You probably helped like affirm the 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. I mean, like, I think it was Alito who asked the Solicitor General in that case, "Hey, you know, could the state pass a law that says not even adults can get gender affirming care?" And the Solicitor General of Tennessee said yes. Okay. And if Thomas or Alito or both of them decide to retire right now because we have a Republican president and a Republican Senate now, you're going to get worse. I know that's hard to imagine, but there's a guy named Judge Ho from the Fifth Circuit. He's on the short list, and he is bat crazy. Yeah, you know? And it's just like that's the other implication. You know? And there was a decent chance, a good shot that sometime in my life we could see a liberal majority on the Supreme Court. That chance is probably gone now. I'm probably never going to see a liberal majority on the Supreme Court. So I'm mad about it. Yep.
I don't know, dude. I think that it's just a lot. There's just too much going on. It's just too much going on.
Yeah.
Oh, that really quick in other news, that subway death that happened of that 26-year-old Marine that put that guy who was experienced a mental health crisis on the subway and a
Yeah.
chokehold and killed him was just acquitted
Yeah.
by a jury.
I don't know the specifics of that case, but like he was just a civilian intervening, right? Trying to hold this guy down while
Yeah.
the cops were coming.
So pretty much the guy was having an episode, getting into people's faces, yelling and things like that. And so this guy took it upon himself to put him in a chokehold and restrain him. The guy didn't touch anybody. I mean, he was like going around
Mhm.
yelling and stuff like that. Did not put his hands on anybody from what I could gather. But this former Marine figured he was going to be proactive, and because he didn't want the guy to, potentially hurt somebody.
Yeah. I
Wait
don't
until
understand the
wait.
chokehold. I
That's what I'm
guess.
saying. Wait until, because he wanted to because he felt like he needed to do something.
Can't give the guy a backhand. Can we go with that? You just want to just like end his life
Not even,
potentially.
not even.
I don't know.
Wait
I don't know
till
the fact of the
somebody.
case.
I'm just
I'm
like,
sure there's. Yeah. Go ahead.
wait till somebody touches someone.
Yeah.
Let the guy yell, let the guy scream, as long as he doesn't actually physically harm somebody.
Yeah.
Don't this is exactly what I was saying about the other stuff. Like, wait. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, just wait until like actual like mess goes down, or you know what I want to say. Until goes down, wait.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
now
hey,
we're in this situation where now
we have
somebody
a
is dead, and now he's. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just maybe I'm gonna just try to close it out here, but we have an interesting show on Thursday. We have Luke from Canada who's going to kind of give us a spiel of everything that's going down in Canada and the implications of Trump being reelected and what that means for the country of Canada. And like basically, Trump has Justin Trudeau like out on the ropes with this threat of tariffs, and like basically can pretty much ask Canada or Justin Trudeau to do whatever he wants. But yeah, we can go into more details there. I think it's going to be a really interesting discussion.
Yeah, so we have a new segment that we have created. Sorry, I'm just going to pull up le graphique. Le graphie?
I don't know. I don't do French.
Dang.
I saw it. Looks great. Take my word for it.
Why can't I see this? So, yeah, pretty much. Oh, here it is. It's called Echoes from Abroad. And our first episode is Canada, and that's with this dude named Luke, who's going to talk to us about what Tommy said, what implications the second or Trump 2.0 could have for Canada and the struggles that is currently happening in Canada. But this overall series aims to, talk to people in different countries to just get different takes on political and cultural differences, and what their thoughts of the US are and what our thoughts of where they are. And so, yeah, Echoes from Abroad, starting this Wednesday, kicking off with Canada.
Yeah, and
We should
I'm
have went in
hopeful that
alphabetical order. We should have got like Argentina or something first, like that.
I don't know anybody in Argentina, but I got some friends from England and one friend from Germany who love to talk politics. So I think it'd be interesting perspectives. And they're very interested in American politics, by the way. But there's very interesting developments happening all over the world. But right now, like the entire developed nation is against immigration, and it's kind of a bleak situation. But it would be good to hear from people in different countries about that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting and refreshing thing to see, because we've seen just a rise. Like, I mean, Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party is in power in Canada right now, but that could be going away. However, you just seen like this rise in how governments or countries all around the world are shifting right. And so I think that'll be a fun thing to see. And even your friends from England, who was the prime minister that was only prime minister for like a month, a year and a half ago?
Sunak, Richie Sunak or something.
It was a female.
Oh, from a year ago? I mean, you had Theresa May, and then you had one who was like prime minister for 45 days.
Her, yeah, because she started like introducing all these tax cuts and
Truss,
things like
Liz
that.
Truss. Yeah,
Yes,
they were
Liz
going like
Truss.
they were going like
Yeah,
super right wing economic, and
like,
people were like, "What the hell, lady?" It's just like, why can't we get that here, man?
well, it got to the point where it's like they had to have somebody, they put in somebody else, or she had to
Yeah,
like. The
Sunak.
New York
Yeah,
Times did the Daily Podcast did this really good episode about that where they broke it all down, and I'm gonna like brush up on that before we have your English friends hop on.
yeah. I
But
still got to talk to them, but they couldn't be any more politically different minded, and they'd probably be on the show like just yelling at each other. It'd be
but
great.
I but that would be fun to see because like her, I mean, you get what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
like how her economic policies, maybe they both agree or disagree with them, but to see like all the taxes she was cutting, and it was like literally causing like the markets to spiral, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
he just proposing them did all of this stuff to the point where it's like they had this press conference where she brought in a more like seasoned member of parliament or whoever he was, her advisor, and pretty much she's standing there behind him with this awkward smile, and he's just literally announcing that they're pulling back everything that she announced that she wanted to do, and she was only prime minister for 45 days, and
Yeah, I don't know if that set a record, but it was pretty close.
yeah, and the queen
George
was like,
Canning, 119 days. No, wait, 69.
it's wild how their system is set up. The House of Commons and the House of Lords, it's kind of just like the House of Representatives and then the Senate, but the House of
Yeah, it's a bit
Lords is
different.
like
Yeah.
the House of Lords is like actual British nobility.
Yeah. And they literally are just figureheads. Like the Commons can do whatever they want. The House of Lords can slow things down, but like they can't ultimately. And I would love to see like a devolved U.S. Senate. Like I would love
Yeah,
a situation where the Senate couldn't just outright block stuff just because one guy says he doesn't like it.
yeah. Somebody was
49
like,
days, shortest term.
it's
Yeah.
just crazy how like 100 people can hold 300 plus million people hostage. Have you ever thought of it that way?
Yeah, what is it? The bottom 25%, bottom 25 states make up 25% of the population, and like 17 of those 25 are traditionally red states.
But it's just like there are 100 people, and you got to get 60 people to
Yeah.
pass something that like 80% of the majority of like the country wants, and they could just say no. That's
Well, I think that's why you should bring back the talking filibuster. I mean, that's how we got the Civil Rights Act. Is we
yeah.
actually
Let's see
made
how
them.
long they can stand up there and
They like
not have to go take
filibustered
a
for like
bathroom break.
they filibustered for like 60 something days because they were like tag teaming, but eventually they just couldn't physically do it anymore. It's just
That's
like,
what
you
I'm
want to
saying.
filibuster? You want to filibuster? Go right ahead, but we're gonna make you actually like earn it with a talking.
Yeah, and I don't want to
filibuster.
sound like ageist or something like that, but isn't like the median age in the Senate like 60 or 65 or something like that?
It's pretty high. You got Chuck Grassley, who's like 93 and still thinking about running again in 2026.
Seriously?
He's actually pretty spry. Like
So I'm just
his
like,
views suck, but
so it's kind of just
yeah.
one of those things like, all right, get up there and talk.
What do they call that?
Let the people hear.
They call it a gerontocracy.
Where the majority of the people who rule are older.
Yeah, just like super old. No offense, I'm gonna be old too someday, God willing.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be ageist, man. Did you know age is the one thing that you're allowed to discriminate on when it comes to, like, if you're under the age of 40, people are allowed to discriminate on your age. That's why what's her name? Jane Raybould was going to give a 2-tiered minimum
Pay.
wage. Yeah, like 18 or like everybody below the age of 20 was going to get a different kind of minimum wage. Totally legal because you're allowed to discriminate on age.
So you want to
below
know
the age
something
of 40.
crazy? Okay, so when I was younger, me and my brother would like mow lawns in our neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I remember
Mhm.
this one house that we would go to. We would mow their lawn. They were a client of ours, but he would only pay us $12 because he felt like giving us like 20, $30 was too much for kids our age to have.
Jeez. Yeah, what do you think, you were going to go buy some booze with it or something? I don't know. We should.
Yeah, he's like 12. He's like, $12 is even pushing it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you see the inflation out here?
It's like, man, I might be 12, man, but I got
Look,
problems.
I can't even. Yeah, I can't even go get a can of soda for less than $1.50 now.
Oh man, my grandfather on my mom's side, that guy did not understand that soda pop was getting expensive, and it was really cute to be honest. But he'd be like, "You want a soda pop?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he's like, "Here's a nickel."
I'll be like, are
I
you
didn't have
gonna
the
give
heart.
me like?
I didn't have the heart. I didn't have the heart because like he lived right behind a grocery store with like a vending machine and stuff. We'd be like, "Here's a nickel."
I'm like,
Man,
do
and
you
they had
have
that
29 more of those?
God, they had this grape soda that was just like so good. I don't even remember the brand name. Oh, so good. Memories. Yeah.
It's wild.
Anyways, we
All
should
right.
call
Well,
it.
thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Comment your thoughts to keep the conversation going. Guillermo, thank you so much for participating. We appreciate you. We
We
appreciate
gotta
the
have you on.
feedback. And yeah, we're doing another Free Talk Friday. I'm gonna be doing it from a hotel room in Vegas. Because that's
Oh,
where I'm going.
nice.
Because I just need to change the scenery.
And you chose Vegas? Jeez.
I'm kidding. Well, I have a friend who lives there, and I'm gonna
Oh, cool. Cool.
go visit. And the last time I was in Vegas was in like 2017. I mean, it's been a while. So,
Yeah.
like Vegas is one of those places where you could just be there for. I remember talking to a former boss of mine. She's like, "Yeah, I have a 48-hour rule in Vegas because it's one of those places. Like once you've seen it, you've seen it. Once you've done one thing, you've done it all. Every hotel has casinos in it. It's all the same thing. However, I'm not a gambler like that, and I don't drink like that. I go more so for like for the sightseeing and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like the high roller and just doing like touristy things is what I like. But yeah, anyways, so yeah,
Yeah.
on Wednesday we're gonna have
Thursday.
Thursday, sorry, we're gonna have this Echoes from Abroad, and I'm gonna create an event for that, and you guys can be notified when that
Sure.
goes live, and then a Free Talk Friday. So hop on. That's already scheduled, and the link to join is in the description of that like scheduled live
Cool.
stream. So for those
Come
of you
on,
guys,
Guillermo. We want to hear from you, man.
yeah, come on and chat with us. But yeah, here we are, an hour and 47 minutes and 30 seconds in. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this live stream. We will see y'all in the next one. Peace.